We are live. You're good to go.
Hi everyone, my name is Bruce Brunner. If you're on Bigger Pockets, I go by Bruce Run, R-U-N-N. For people that are connected to me or want to connect, that's fine. You can always ask questions. I'm very active there, and really it gives me a kind of a forum to share some of the things that I do. Today we're going to be talking about a triplex that I'm doing a full renovation on. It was completely gutted to the studs. It's in the Seward neighborhood of Minneapolis. But first, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. If you haven't been to one of the meetups that I've done a presentation on, I started investing in multifamily properties starting about 10 years ago in 2010. Growing up, my parents owned 8 duplexes, so I really learned how it worked. So I bought my first duplex at 49 years old, so I'm 59 right now. In doing so, bought it, moved in 2010. Like, there was no floor to how, everyone was selling and no one was buying. Bought first one, house hacked, moved in, and thought, wow, this is pretty easy. And the prices were unbelievable, but the stock market was crashing, housing was crashing. So I bought one 2010, we bought 2 in 2011, and we took money out of our 401ks, my wife and I had friends that were in the investment community. They're like, how can you do that? You won't have anything for retirement. And what I asked them was, well, how much are you going to have in 15 years in your retirement plan, and how much income is that going to generate? Because I can tell you how much income I make on each of these duplex or triplexes, and I'm returning about 25% cash on cash return. Now again, that was years ago, right? Okay, so don't think, oh, I can do that too, right? But what, 2 in 2012, 2 in 2013, and just kept going. So as I continued to buy, I learned, but I did it very, very methodical, right? So we have a couple precepts on how we run our businesses. For the first 7 years approximately, we only bought properties within 2 miles of my house. So it was very close. I live in Uptown, so Uptown's one of the hottest areas for renting and for maximizing your profits, really. So we bought places that were very close to our house, and as I've grown, I'm all the way out to 4 miles from my house. So we're 4 miles from my house right here, so that's kind of the outer limit. So between my daughters, who I've taught how to do this, and my son-in-law and myself, we own 20 properties with 50 rentals. So we primarily only buy in the greater Uptown area, but we also buy right here in Seward, because I go to church 4 doors down, so I'm here once a week anyway, so I'm okay with that. So we've actually done 5 projects in this neighborhood. But at this point, I have 14 properties with 32 to 33 different units, and I'm building a triplex this fall. I built the first triplex last year. I was the first person to complete a triplex post 2040 plan. I was very involved in the 2040 plan. So we're going to be building one this fall, and we have a 3rd plan for next spring, and I'm working on 2 more lots to build after that. So it gives you a little idea of some of the things that I'm doing. I'm a general contractor, so after about 5 years of buying properties and doing lighter renovations, I built a crew, I got my general contractor's license, and now we do full-fledged renovations and building. So not only do I own, I operate, I self-manage, I only work on my own projects. I don't general contract for other people. And one of the things I really enjoy doing is I meet with primarily younger people, but not so young anymore. But I teach people how to house hack. So house hacking, as most of you know, is living in one unit, renting the other out. You can get a low interest loan with a low down payment, and literally the person renting is paying the majority of your mortgage. So I teach people how to do that. In the past 3 years, I've taught approximately 80 people. 25 people have bought duplex or triplexes in Uptown and South Minneapolis after I've taught them how to do that. So that's just one of the things that is out there, especially for younger investors. So we're going to go in. Just want to make sure this is light enough. It's good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we're going to talk about a couple things, and I have Alyssa here who's going to prompt some questions because she has toured this with me, and we talked about some of the things that might be of the most interest. So one of the things that people ask a lot is, how'd you find this place, or how do you find properties? 2/3 of my buys and 2/3 of my sells are off market. Now that's an extremely high percent, but I do this full time, right? A lot of people have jobs, they're doing this on the side, they're trying to build their portfolio. Well, every day I'm looking. So at this point, on average, I buy 3 or 4 places a year. There's been years where I bought 3 places in the month of April. Couldn't find another place for the rest of the year. There's other years where I've only been able to find 1 place to buy. So I only buy when it's a great, great deal. I want to use this as an example. I don't do any mailings. I build personal relationships. This is a good example. This was a boarded up building that was boarded up for 2.5 years and empty for 4 years. It took me 3 years to secure this place. I know the owner's son, his daughter-in-law, his ex-wife. I know the neighbors. I'm just telling you, it's sending out, for me, 1,000 or 5,000 letters is just a shotgun approach, right? I get between 5 and 10 calls, text messages, emails, letters a week. I don't respond to any, right? But people take just, you glean from lists, right? But you have to go find things. Instead of a shotgun approach, we call it the bazooka approach. We target things, and we're relentless if we feel there's the opportunity. You get a lot of no's, but once you develop a reputation also, people start referring you. So I get people that call me because someone else said, oh, well, you ought to talk to Bruce. He doesn't really knock anything down. He brings things back to life. So I've bought pre-foreclosures, I bought foreclosures at the auction, I bought post-foreclosures, I've bought deeds, I've bought houses that are just so bad, like this was so bad that we figured we were about 6 months from it just being knocked down. So the owner didn't want to have it knocked down. He owned a couple properties in the neighborhood, and so we ended up working out a deal, but it took 3 years of work, and by the end, I was really the last man standing. And because I had the capability, other people were interested, but no one had tackled a project this big, and really had convinced the guy that you had the neighborhood best interest also. Well, I go to church a couple doors down. We got 5 properties around this. He actually knew someone that I bought a house from who was kind of carted off to a nursing home, and I renovated and brought that one back to life. The fact that I sell to quite a few owner-operators or owner-occupants was a big selling point to him, and he saw some of my work, right? So it's easier for me to convince people versus just, cold call, right? So it takes time, but building relationships is really how it works. Some of my best deals have come from building relationships. And, there's people who go out there and are searching like yourselves, and sometimes, and I've helped people, like I've taught them a lot. Like I believe in just giving without expecting things. I've had people like yourselves that go, oh, well, I can't, this is a great deal, but I can't swallow it. Yeah, I'm gonna call Bruce, maybe this will work for him, and it's a way for them to go, because they know if they do a favor for me, they're gonna get paid back somehow, right? Somewhere, somehow, and it's just this collegial kind of atmosphere that sometimes we can work out. So this deal worked out that I paid approximately $115,000 for this building.
Originally a fourplex.
As a fourplex, that's correct. So this is zoned R2B, and I could not keep it as a fourplex because if something's been empty for over a year without a rental license, you lose the grandfatheredness. So because of the 2040 plan, I could at least make it into a triplex. but I only have $115,000 in, and I really held pretty firm to that was as good as I could get, because if I had to knock this down, the knockdown cost would have been about $25,000, so my all-in would have been about $140,000. If you look around the Seward Longfellow neighborhood, people are buying houses to knock them down to build new ones for anywhere from $140,000 to $165,000. So my price had to be, what if I have to knock it down, what's just the raw land worth? So that's what I did. So when I started the project, I then have to calculate what is it going to take to renovate this. So luckily, I'm extremely good with the cost because I've done it several dozen times. So somewhere around 28 to 34 times. I don't really keep track now. So we've done that many renovations. Now, when you walk into places, and this is what, when you're newer, you have to think, do I want to buy something turnkey? Do I want something that I can renovate? How do I do forced appreciation? Well, when you're new and you have a job, and how much can you do, right? And when you're walking into places, you're competing against people like me too. So you just have to be aware of this. And actually, Alyssa and I have a very funny story we're going to talk about.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. So it relates to a duplex that was for sale that she was bringing, one of her clients through, and she said, "Oh, I'm going to tell it now because I think it's fun because this is how you learn, right?" So she was going to go to this duplex, had a lot of showings. It already had 2 offers, and I said, "Well, you really want to go through it?" I said, "Let me just tell you the deal. So whatever the best offer is, I have a relationship that I developed 4 months ago with the owner of this duplex that I get the right of last refusal on the best and final offer. So even though you're going through and you're giving it your all, there's someone sitting out there who gets to match anything. And in my case, mine are all cash, no inspection, because when I go in, I know exactly what I have to do, and I can find things better than an inspector, really, because I know what the cost of remediation of everything is, because I've done all remediation. But this is just to reinforce that you have to develop relationships if you're going to get these deals on an off-market basis.
And pick a niche.
Yep,
right.
That's right.
Yep.
So, it takes time and it takes effort, and don't lose heart, but be willing to put the time and effort in. So that's just one of the things we want to reinforce. There's lots of ways that, people can target properties, but we really want to make sure you understand, ultimately people respond to being a people person, right? Mm-hmm. So we bought this property for approximately was $105,000. I had to take care of about $10,000 in back taxes, so I'm in for $115,000. So this was a fourplex, 2 units on the first floor, 2 units on the second floor, and there was a kind of an unfinished attic, but really big, right? It had 11-foot ceilings up in the attic, so it was really intriguing. So I had to convert this to a triplex. So the first thing we had to calculate is, well, we have to take down walls, we have to restructure things. So we calculated what our estimated cost of renovation was going to be. Then what I do is I get a construction loan. So my construction loan is based on very good figures that I break down what my costs are, and I've worked with this bank. I'll just tell you who it is. I work with Community Resource Bank. They're very, very investor friendly for construction loans and commercial loans. That's what they specialize in. I have several friends who do their commercial work with them. And then, so what they do is they bring an appraiser in who you explain everything you're going to do. And in this case, commercial loans are different than residential loans because they can pick their appraisers. On a residential loan, it's a random because the bank holds its commercial loans, so they can pick the appraiser. And what the appraiser does is they look at what is going to be the final, and the appraiser they use has seen my work numerous times. So he puts an estimate on the finished product after I tell him everything we're going to do. So the ARV on this property will be $650,000. So I paid 115. I had demo costs, so if I'm all in for about 150, I have about 350,000 minimum renovation costs. So I'm going to have about $500,000 into this project with a projected ARV of 650,000. So I could keep it and do extremely well because my return on investment would be very good. I would have no money in, and my bankers already told me I could suck all my money out, no problem. So I'd be in for zero, and I'd be cash flowing $2,000 a month. But my problem is I have a deal with my wife. So my deal is I get to keep like 10 properties. So right now I have 14 and I'm building my 15th. So I gotta sell some. And so this one's gonna have to be sold. I have another one that's for sale right now. I think we're gonna try to play a video just to give you an idea of what that looks like of a full renovation, because it also has an opportunity to finish off a third unit. And we're gonna talk a little bit about that and what those costs look like, right? But my problem is I got too many places, so she gives me a year and a day. She gives me a year and a day because that gets me into long-term capital gains, so I don't pay Social Security as a contractor or the profits, right? And in long-term capital gains, the first $75,000 of long-term capital gain profits are tax-free. And then it goes to 15 and then to 20. So I'm 1 degree short of an accounting degree. So you have to know the tax accounting for all of this stuff. I mean, I just got my tax return back today, so it took us a long time, but it's an extensive one because of all the different things, and you know, I love my accountant, but we fight, right? And we fight about what we can take, and you have to get to know that stuff, right? So anyway, the plan is to sell this. I have someone who's interested. We'll find out if they can swing the deal. One of the problems is Fannie Mae has a limit on triplexes, I think of $575,000 approximately. So they were hoping to put 5% down. They bought a duplex from me about a year and a half ago, and they were waiting to get married until after they bought the second property for me. So they put it in his name for the first one, and it'll be in her name in the second one. Great strategy. So
Maybe volume up.
Oh, yeah. Is it too quiet?
Somebody said he's hard to hear, and then another said, have you ever bought a house in an auction, and is it worth looking into?
So the question is, have I ever bought a house in an auction? I've bought it at foreclosure auctions, but that's a very involved process, and you have to understand the entire foreclosure process. I have a real estate attorney that in the end, it cost me about $10,000 for her to teach me every facet of it. So it's complicated, right? But yes, I have bought those, and they've turned out to be unbelievable deals. The reason I can buy at a foreclosure auction versus other people is you have to pay in cash on the spot, and the person, and I only buy them if the person's deceased, right? So because they can be redeemed, and there's a lot of things like that, right? But my money is sitting out there for 6 months to a year, and who wants their money just sitting there, right? It's a problem. So it has to be a super, super deal. That was great about 5, 6, 7 years ago. I haven't seen one in recent memory that I don't even really look for them anymore. So, but I've done it. I've bought pre-foreclosure, at foreclosure, post-foreclosure. I've bought redemptions on foreclosure. You don't get to go in the place, so it's a risk, right? But if I can buy it for the cost or value of the land, it's unbelievable. So that's a great question. Feel free to ask questions as we're going on. Any comments, if we need more volume, things like that, let us know.
Awesome. Want to start the walkthrough?
Yep.
part?
So this is the first floor. Just a couple things I want you to just span. So
Yeah.
we have restudded essentially the entire place. If you come over here and just go across the tops, we had to put in all new headers over every doorway in the entire place, because this was built in 1896 and we had to get it to code and really to safety, right? We gutted, we took all the electric, the plumbing, the heating out, we took all the plaster, the lath. I probably have at least 15, maybe $20,000 in demolition costs. We filled up probably 30 to 40 dumpsters. I mean, that at $300 a load, you can put the numbers, right? So what we did is we had to partition this. So I'm just gonna walk through. So on each half, it was one unit. So what we have is, we have a bedroom here. This is a 12 by 11 bedroom. We took out one stairwell so we could create this entrance. You gotta walk faster than me. Here's bedroom number 2, which is 12 by 11. And we have 32 new windows in here. This is bedroom number 3. It's 15 by 10. And this is bedroom number 4. It's 8 by 12. And then, because this was 2 units, there's 2 full bathrooms. And you can just walk in and just give them, in general, the bathrooms are about 10 feet by 5 feet.
And Bruce, why did you decide on a 4-bedroom unit?
So, 2/3, when I do renovations or when I buy, I only buy properties if I can add more bedrooms. So every bedroom incrementally can add $400 to $600. So the more bedrooms you have, the more people that can rent. So 95% of my properties are roommate situations because I'm in Uptown. So if I have a 3-bedroom and it's $1,800 a month, if it was only a 2-bedroom, I could probably only get $1,400. So this is how you maximize.
Yep.
This unit's easily worth $2,400 a month. So come over here. So there's a second full bathroom, and then there's a this will be the kitchen, which is quite large. You'll notice these are 9-foot ceilings, and we have a huge pantry over here also. Okay? Mm-hmm. We're going to just keep walking, and I'm going to talk while we walk.
So a question came in, what is and you'll probably get to this, fire and sound and the difference in like the
Yes.
residential building code versus commercial building?
Yep. We're gonna save that because it's a very important question. A triplex falls into the commercial code. I build triplexes, so I'm used to the sound and fire ratings. So I have to have everything sound and fireproofed between every unit. So that's the walls, any wall or common wall that touches more than one unit, and all of the ceilings will be sound rated with a sound system that I buy and we put in, and it has 5/8 sheetrock everywhere that it touches, including stairwells, ceilings, and if you can pan up here, come closer. You'll see that everywhere that we have wiring, everything is fire already sealed between every joist and anywhere that you cut through. So we're gonna come downstairs. So that's a pretty big expense. So I'll just say that. So this is a half basement. You have about 6'8" here. We completely took all the concrete out. So for $4,500, we took all the concrete out, lowered it about 6 inches, relaid all new concrete. So this is walkable. We could run ductwork. We could, if you pan over here, we have 4 different electric services. We're gonna have 3 separate storage rooms down here. We have 3 hot water heaters. You can see 2 are one size, one's jumbo. That jumbo, I'll be paying, it's hooked into my service for electric, because that will also supply the coin-op washer and dryer.
What specific sound system do you use that you mentioned?
I'd have to go and it's, I can't tell you the brand, But essentially what you have to do is, it's a set of spacers and sound deadening devices that get put onto every single joist.
Pavel wanted to take some credit.
Yeah. Yes, he knows. So there's several different systems that do that. It's when we build triplexes, it's probably the most difficult part is getting that passed, is the sound portion, because it costs $2,500 just for the test itself. So.
And if you're converting from a duplex to a triplex, do you have to sound and fireproof all of the units or just the additional one?
The additional one.
Okay.
So, I think that's a great question, and it's worth answering. So, I've actually done a conversion of a duplex to a triplex. Extremely difficult, right? Because everyone wants to finish an attic off. It's literally almost impossible to finish off an attic nowadays that meets both fire and sound code. What you can do is you can finish off a basement into another unit, and we're going to talk about that in the end, because you actually have access to get the sound and fire ratings. But what you need, and I'm going to talk a little bit about ADUs versus triplexes, you need the height, right? For a triplex, you need 7'6", right? So in an ADU, you need a minimum of 6'4" in clearance. So, but who's going to live in a unit that's 6'4", right? But that's for headway movement. And then you still need 6'8". So I can get into some of the technical pieces, but it's easier to talk about in a smaller gathering.
Perfect.
We're going to go upstairs. So the first thing I'll say is everywhere that we have an entryway, either into a unit or into the building, you have to have fire rated doors. So we have fire rated doors to 1.5 hours. They're steel doors with steel frames. So I have 9 of those. In my garage, we have 30 doors currently sitting there. So we have 32 windows, but we have a total of 34 doors in this building. This is a common area. So one of the requests that the people who might be interested in buying it was to have an area where you could have and put some bikes. So on top of it, downstairs, we'll have a common area here. This is the original layout of the 1-bedroom units. So there's a bathroom, the same size kitchen, which is quite big, and they'll have a pantry. And then you walk into, and we've expanded these by opening them up, a very large living and dining room, along with a 12 by 11 bedroom. And downstairs, there were 2 stairways. We only needed 1, so we took one out so we could have an entry for the first floor. And we took the space that the stairwell was to put in a very large closet. So when you walk in the bedroom, you have a very big closet here. So we're downstairs, we estimate we can get at least $2,400 a month. We estimate we are in the range of $1,250 a month for this 1 bedroom. Again, great heights, lots of windows. We're gonna cut across to the other unit, which is laid out almost identically, but this is a bigger unit, and I was talked into this by some friends. We did a meetup about 9 months ago, and when it looked, we had done nothing. So we asked and solicited people and said, well, what do you think? What would you do? And like people were very passionate about something. So this is quite a unique unit. So come on in. So the first thing we did is this is a 12 by 11 bedroom, but we've flipped around and added and made a huge walk-in closet. So again, nice size living room, dining room. And on the second floor, you can see we put the furnaces, the HVAC, in where the pantries are. So we have them up higher rather than in the basement. This unit, because we cleared out more space, will have a much bigger kitchen and a nice sized bathroom. And the biggest benefit, and I'm going to let you walk up first, Sylvia. So it had an attic that we've completed and opened up into a loft to be part of that unit. So what you're going to have is a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. But this open loft is over 600 square feet of living space and 100 square feet of closet space. So there's 3 sets of windows. In one case, what we did is we have 1 crank-out window, so it has the egress. We have spray foam the entire ceiling. So there's $5,100 just to spray foam. We've re-shingled the entire roof. We had 5 layers of shingles. There was so much weight up there that when we took it all off and we took all the floorboards off, we actually had some of the boards or the cross members rise because there was so much weight holding it down. So, you know, we had some contemplation, but in the end, to finish this all off probably cost us approximately $30,000, maybe 25 to 30. It's tough to discern because I have to calculate how much more heating or air conditioning I put in, but somewhere between 25 and 30,000. But we think it adds $7,000 or $8,000 a year in income. So it's about a 3 to 3.5 year payback. But you know, if someone wants to own or occupy, this is where you'd want to live.
So this is different than a duplex to triplex attic conversion, and
Right.
the reason that is because.
So what I recommend to people that have an attic that they want to finish, I tell them, keep it a duplex, add the bedrooms. It's a lot cheaper, it's a lot easier. There's no code compliance compared to trying to add a unit. So if you can add 2 bedrooms and a bath, that's great, right? Why spend all the money, the hardship, the ache, the pain, if you can add 2 bedrooms in an attic this size versus adding a whole other unit?
And the reason the unit in the attic is complicated is because
When you're going from a duplex to a triplex, you gotta convert to code, to commercial code. So that's the hard part. And the main parts are heights. You have to have a different rise and run on your stairwells, but really it's about fire and sound ratings. And it's very, very difficult for anyone ever to achieve a 3rd floor or an attic unit to retrofit nowadays. Because the city specifically, I mean, they're very smart, right? They know it's hardly possible, right? Be very difficult.
and then you need 2 forms of egress in an
And you
attic.
need 2 forms of egress versus just having 1 form. That's the other really big part. If you have it in the basement, you can actually have 1 form of egress. So that's why I tell people if you're gonna finish another apartment or something, put it in the basement. Okay?
Yeah.
We're gonna walk downstairs and then we're gonna take a bunch of questions and
Yeah.
Alyssa's gonna prompt some of the questions. So one of the things I want to point out also is this is on an oversized lot. Most Minneapolis lots are about 40 by 129 or 128. This is 40 by 150. So we do have a 2-car garage, but we have a huge yard. It literally huge lot, right? So when I bought this, there was a 35 by 5 foot former coal shed, and we tore that down. You can see there's still a concrete pad there, but we're going to add more parking back here. So not everyone will be forced on the street. We're actually going to have parking for probably 6 cars. So I think that's still an important aspect. We're only a half a block from the bus line. We're half a block to Franklin. We're 1 block to the Seward Co-op and about 3 blocks to the on-ramp for 94. So this is really convenient. We're super close to Augsburg. We're super close to the U of M. So, I mean, if people want to start bidding now, before we finish, there's still a lot.
I thought
for us
I
to
was
do.
number 1 on the list.
That's true. Alyssa wants to move into the upstairs.
I do.
So, but why don't we take some questions?
Yeah. We get a lot of questions about the difference between Minneapolis and St. Paul. You're the St. Paul expert. Does St. Paul have clear triplex guidelines, like for attic conversions?
So the guidelines aren't specific to Minneapolis or St. Paul. They're specific to the code, and they will enforce the code more, right?
And that's anytime you
That's
convert from
anytime,
2 to
anywhere,
2
right?
units.
So I have done 1 renovation in St. Paul and will not work there. I mean, I have friends that are on the city council, like Mitra's a friend of mine, and she's like, how come you won't build, you won't renovate? I said, you guys make it so difficult to add housing or to bring things. You let the NIMBYs like control everything. So I can't even, and they have the historical portion, and I mean, I tried to buy at auction a place on Summit. It would have been just great, but the city literally forced it into a code 2 or category 2 so they could make whoever bought it bring all these things up to code that you really shouldn't have had to. So I mean, I just found it very, very difficult to work with them. So I take the path of least resistance, really. Love St. Paul. So
How's the remodel at your single family home going? Asks Pavel.
we're completely done. I'm gonna have you over. You got to bring the beer and wine. But I just bought a single family house, so I believe this is a tremendous time to be buying right now. I've made 2 purchases and 1 sale. I have another place for sale. I'm gonna put another one up for sale. It's unbelievable, I think. So I just bought a single family home the week after the pandemic started, where it was announced. And no, everyone was concerned about, oh geez, what's gonna happen, we buy. We're bullish, we buy, right? You don't make money when you sell, you make it when you buy. So I bought a single family home in a beautiful location on a double lot. I try to buy every property on double lots. I do splits, and that's where I build. But I'm for myself, and I've moved in. It happens to be on Bede Makaska. So it was an estate. The daughter was estranged from her dad. Had a great realtor, but she said, if you put $20,000 into this place, you can get 50. She said, put it on the market right now. Get rid of it. I don't want to, with the pandemic going on. I want the for sure offer, right? I don't want things going in and out. I don't want to hear about it. And we walked in. Our first offer was $100,000 under ask. We ended up at $80,000 under ask, and it was no inspection, cash. But really, it was a loan. It was a 45-day close. There was just no contingency on financing, but we took a loan, right? I can't swing that. But we put $40,000 in renovation, and it's probably worth easily $100,000 more than I paid for it 3 months ago. So, and we have a long-range plan that if we love the house, great. If we kind of go, if I start getting itchy, I'm going to pick up the house, move it 120 feet back, and build 3 condos, and do a cluster development. So I have 3 condos that face the lake.
Wow.
So
I like
condos
that,
like
yeah.
that sell for about $500 a square foot. So we're looking at in the $800,000 range for each condo. So I've already had a couple people who know me that build these kind of things. I don't do luxury anything like that. They said, Bruce, let's just do it. So it's quite funny. But you have to think of a backup plan. I have a backup plan for everything I buy, right? Sometimes I keep it, and the fact that I renovate and my main business is renting is, if something doesn't sell, I don't care. I'm still making a good amount of money off of whatever I'm holding, right? So I'm never pressured, but I'm contrarian. So when people are selling, I'm buying. When people are buying, I'm selling. So right now, I mean, I have several realtor friends that, put a bid on a place, and like there was like 15 or 16 offers, and it's crazy right now. So anyway, that's just what
you build triplexes,
I
you
build
said.
triplexes.
What are the main differences between remodeling something like this and building new?
$350,000, $750,000. Brand new, you want premium. I'm giving you your cost, not my cost. I can't tell you my cost, but it costs a lot, right? There's not much land around, but the triplexes that we're putting up are in very prime spots, right? And part of our goal, almost everything, 4 years ago, everything I owned was at least 100 years old. I'm trying to transition, have less units, but newer. I mean, I'm 59. I don't want to. I do my own maintenance. I have a guy that works for me, kind of taking care of things too, right? But I want things that aren't going to be problems. If I build triplexes and I have 3 or 4 of those, I mean, I don't have to worry about anything for about 15 years. So.
Elias, what are the reserve requirements for the condos?
Well, you're gonna have to develop a relationship because I'm living in one of them, right? We actually just talked to we had a wine and cheese kind of get together last night with someone who's interested. They live like a block or 2 off of the lake, and they're friends, but they're like, we want to have a discussion with you. So it's kind of funny.
So the new build, you said a 750 figure. We get that question a lot. What is a general cost for new construction triplex if you...
$200 a square foot is
Okay.
a good barometer for you to use for the build and your soft cost, plus land.
Is it fairly easy working with the city on a new build triplex or even a conversion, or what are the biggest challenges that you've encountered?
Well, when you build new, you have an architect who runs most of the interference. So I have a good architect, but the city it's fine detail, right? I like working with Minneapolis because you know what they're expecting and you know what you have to do, and we do it, right? And it's fairly straightforward. So it's not more difficult or less difficult. It's different. There's a lot of requirements out there. It's not. I mean, you got I did this for 10 years before we built the first one, right? And I co-build with a friend, so he has a lot of expertise in commercial buildings and things like that. So.
And what are like some good lessons on a project like this?
So
things to look out for.
So one thing I'm going to start with is early on, I bought properties that needed light cosmetic changes, right? Or adding or converting a bedroom. I then went to a little more, right? And then each year, I take just a little more. So everything that you do, take it in steps and learn, right? I mean, you learn on the job. Like the guys I'd hire who have been working with me now for 10 years, they'd work on a project here and there. I've employed them like full time for the past 4 years now, right? So I learned a lot from them, and I learned a lot by getting my general contractor's license. But you learn by doing. It's no different than if you buy a duplex or 2. I don't think you should have a management company. You need to learn what it's like to deal with tenants, right? This month I got 100% of my rent. Like, I've let a couple tenants out of leases though. When they come to me and I want to talk to them, I sent them notes when the COVID thing was happening, and there was a couple that came to me and said, listen, we don't have the money, we'd rather move out. And I let them out. Like, what good would it do to hold them to a lease when you know you can't evict and you can't get the money, and so I let people out. So, yeah.
And costs are cheaper for you
Yes.
because of why?
Because I'm the general contractor, and I know how to engineer things in a way for cost. Like, if you have someone do it for you, their incentive is different than mine, right? So mine's for return on investment, right, as a rental. And the same thing's true when I'm going to sell it to someone too. I have that in mind. Whenever I sell, I leave enough meat on the bone that it's profitable for the person buying too, right? My dad taught me, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered.
Have you always been in real estate? Oh, and did you like migrate from a W-2? What's your advice for someone just starting out?
Yep. So no, I've worked for multiple corporations, large corporations. I was in retail. I've reinvented myself about 4 different times for my careers. I had a W-2 up until about 2005. Then I went into business for myself. I started a company. I mean, I've traveled internationally. I've had companies internationally. I've worked for companies. It was a lot of travel. I decided I wanted to do something much closer. So we bought our first duplex and went, oh, this is pretty easy. Boom, 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 boom. Got out of control a little bit, right? So, but as my son-in-law, who's really a smart guy, says, Bruce, all you have to do is have a management company. And I'm like, it's so hard for me to give away that much profit. It's just because they don't do that much work. No, I'm kidding. For all you guys that are in management companies.
So advice for someone starting out would be?
House hack. House hack. I mean, so I've been house hacking for the last 10 years, from age 49 to 59. I loved it. I mean, now, granted, I lived in Kenwood, right? So it was a beautiful area in a beautiful place, but, you know, I bought it for $520,000. So each unit really only cost $260, right? So, but when I traveled or anything else, someone was living on the first floor. You know, I had great tenants. You know, they're quiet. You know, I don't allow dogs. So, you know.
Kevin says he is a pretty smart guy.
Yeah. I didn't think you guys were gonna let him on.
Do you have any experience converting properties where you don't fully gut them?
Yes.
Is that different than the sound and fire rating versus a property where you are fully gutting it?
So most of my renovations are not complete gut jobs. So most of my properties, we invest somewhere in the $60,000 to $100,000. We never buy something that's just set to go. We can't make money on it. We do things through forced depreciation, and the forced depreciation is adding the improvements or bringing it up to speed and being able to add to the rent. So on average, in the first 5 years, you know, we were able to buy places and just increase the rent like $200 a month on places because they were so. It didn't take much. I mean, sometimes just painting and refinishing the floors, and I mean, it's amazing what the difference is. But on average, we put $60,000 to $100,000 in, and we buy places that are kind of run down. I mean, that's, you know.
And even when you are converting it, you still have to do, regardless if it was a full gut job or not, from the duplex to triplex conversion, you still have to meet the fire and sound code.
We don't do a lot of conversions.
Yeah.
I mean, I've bought we actually, probably one of the best buys we ever had was buying something that was an illegal triplex that there was no way to make the conversion. I mean, I know what all the rules are, right? We looked at it, said there's no way, and everyone else that was bidding on this place was trying to figure out how to keep it a triplex. Well, the difference in the rent between the duplex with two, you know, instead of two bedroom units having a 4-bedroom, was about $200 loss, right? But it was still such a crazy deal that everyone was focused on the wrong thing. They were like, how can I keep it a triplex even though it's illegal, right? We said, I don't care. All we did was change the stairwell to make it a legal duplex. And, you know, made money hand over fist, right? I mean, so you don't have to be compelled to say, I have to do it this way. Why do you care? I mean, I don't care. I mean, if I can convert an attic and add 2 bedrooms versus adding a whole unit, I'll do it. It's just, I mean, sometimes taking the easy path is really a good way of doing it. So.
Do you ever JV on deals, or are you willing to JV on deals?
No. I don't even do a joint venture with my kids. So I don't want money to ever be a problem, right? It's you know, they buy theirs, and I'll help them however they need help, except giving money. I don't think that'd be fair to them. But I don't do joint ventures. It's we self-finance, and self-finance means we're taking loans, but we use our own capital, and we do 1031s. We do a lot of creative banking things that first-time buyers and newer people don't even know about yet, right? Like I kind of made a joke, like all cash offer. Like I can make an all cash offer and do a back-to-back closing with myself, and the seller has no idea, right? I mean, I have the wherewithal, but that's because of years, right? So if you go in and you're bidding, you know, put yourself in a seller's standpoint. Like, because I have enough places, I can make it non-contingent because I know I'm going to close, right? My bank says, Bruce, you're going to get the loan, right? And even if you have 4 or 5 places, you know if you have all the reserves, and you've done this enough times, you know, and really, you know, it's not that hard, right? So the way people are closing deals is not by necessarily having the highest offer, but having the best kind of offer. So, yeah.
One other question, and people answered this in the chat, but your bank will do an ARV before the work gets done.
Yeah, they do the ARV and they'll loan me based on the projected value it comes in at. Now, I have to put 25% of the projected amount down, right? So I have to have 25% of the purchase and 25% of the total renovation as my portion. So yes, but in this case, because my cost will come in so much lower, my conversion to a permanent financed loan, I'm all in. I don't have to, I get my money back. That's a great question.
Yeah. And all right, well, nobody's got any more questions, but I do have one. We can wrap it up with this. On bigger pot. We'll wait till the plane flies over. On Bigger Pockets, everybody's like, well, Bruce, you bought in 2010 and you had all the opportunity in the world because real estate was so cheap. What would you say to that? Everybody says, well, Bruce, you bought at the best time in the market in the history, and of course you were successful.
Yeah. One of the things I say to that is, in retrospect, it's like gold, right? When gold was $1,000 an ounce, people look back and said, oh, well, someone who bought it at $100, well, you didn't know it was going to go to 1,000, right? When I bought, we were taking way more risk then than now because the market was still going down, right? Did we do really well? Yes. But the deals that we've been doing in the past 3 years are as good as the deals we did back then. They're just very, very different. I'm not finding them in the same way. So every 2 years, we have to change kind of what we do. Like, I didn't build anything earlier than last year, but it's something that we had to end up moving into because for me to build, I get unbelievable great returns, right? So that's where I'm putting my concerted efforts versus doing more of these, right? So I have to stay a step ahead of where everyone else is. So we're already moving to a new step. I'm not going to talk about it, but because everyone's going to chase what everyone just got done saying is the best thing since sliced bread, right? So
Storage units.
Storage units, yeah. That's funny.
Actually, 2 questions came in. What are some of the creative financing methods you've used outside of all cash offers or 1031s?
Yeah, so we get offers, and they're kind of all cash, but not really. I mean, I've bought places on contract for deed, on a relationship basis of building, of things like that. It's very tough. Like, I get people that contract me all the time that would you sell on a land contract? No, I'm not going to sell to anyone on a contract. I need to take my money and use it for the next thing, right? Creative.
Did you ever move that duplex?
I wasn't able to, but that's why I had a friend that was going to build an apartment and it was tear down a single family home and a duplex. I had an empty lot nearby. We were going to pick them up and move them, but two things. One was the zoning was R1A, and we were going to put the duplex down and have the single family as an ADU, but in that whole process of ADUs, and I was involved in this, they didn't allow owner-occupied, non-owner-occupied ones in R1 and R1A. So I ended up not being able to do it. And then the park board, the tree expert, ended up refusing to let me take down 2 trees that I had to get past. And he was going to charge me like $30,000 a tree. He's like, our job is to not take trees down. You have to understand, we don't care about whether you can make money at something. It was funny. But that's allowed me to know all the costs involved so I could pick up my house and move it if I want. We say this kind of tongue-in-cheek, right? So
I wouldn't put it past you. As a house hack, is it better to extend a second unit for more finished square feet or put that money into a second investment?
You have to look at it. What's your return, right? Are you going to be able to play that video that we sent on that other one?
Yeah.
So what we're going to do, I'm going to talk just briefly. I have a duplex for sale. I'm not trying to pitch anyone on it, but it's a duplex and it's in an R5. It's in South Minneapolis, but it has a finishable basement with 8-foot ceilings. And so when you're thinking about how do I force appreciation, look for those kinds of opportunities. And we're actually going to play a video just to give you a walkthrough.
No, I don't think I can play it.
Okay, we probably can't. Kevin did post the link
Okay,
to the
perfect.
listing.
Okay, so you can see the video walkthrough is really what you want to see. So
I'll add it on. I'll
Yep.
add it on after everyone.
So I'll give you the quick down and dirty. I bought it off market. It had been for sale. But 6 months later, I contacted the person. We didn't have a realtor involved anymore, and we put about $100,000 in renovations. So I paid $275. So I got about $375. It's for sale for $440. But we've already priced out that you could do a full renovation in the basement for around $90,000, and you could get about $1,500 a month. So when you think about it, the duplex cash flows, but when you add that third unit, it's a great cash flow. So, I mean, I bought it with that intention. I just have too many projects going on. So, and at some point, my wife is like, "No, you got to sell some." So, anyway, it's kind of fun.
What's the biggest mistake you've made while converting? You've only done one conversion, so what was the biggest mistake on that project from a duplex to a triplex?
It wasn't a mistake. It was just way harder than I thought. Way harder. Hard. I could never do an attic one again. I'm just telling you. So when people ask on Bigger Box, I just say, you can't do an attic one. It's too hard.
Oh, Kevin added the video from his end. Is $12 a square foot a reasonable retail estimate to frame out a second or third story addition, not including the actual roofing?
So I don't do that conversion for costing. So unfortunately, the way my costing is, because I do everything on time and materials, and I don't break it down like that. So,
Yeah.
So one of the things that we're advocates of are, you don't have to add a whole unit in a basement either. If you have a side-by-side, you can add bedrooms, right, and bathrooms. So we've done that to places. We add more bedrooms to things versus a conversion for another unit, because we believe the costs are so much better. So there's a lot of properties with unfinished attics, right? Put bedrooms, just like that's what we did here, right? Put the bedrooms in, put a bathroom if you want, right? That's where you get the quickest return. It's just way harder trying to go through all the pieces. Unless you want to be a general contractor, do your own work, hire your son. I mean, so that's my advice. Or buy a turnkey.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, if nobody has any other questions, we'll wrap it up and people can watch this after and I assume email you with further questions or...
Yep.
Okay.
And we could probably do some type of follow-up.
Yeah.
If they email you guys.
Yeah.
And that way everyone can see.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you
Thanks
so
a
much,
lot.
Bruce.
Good luck.